You can hear me, Coach? You can hear me, correct, Coach?
Yep, yep.
All right, awesome. Okay, so Aaron Miller, Northridge High School. I'm going to share my screen here in a second. It should be this right here. Okay, perfect. Okay. Y'all can see that too, Coach Ramos?
Yep, see it.
All right, outstanding. Okay, so again, Aaron Miller, strength coach at Northridge High School here in Indiana, Northern Indiana. For those that might not know where it's at, it's in a small area here, a decent sized high school here in Indiana. I'm from originally Indiana. I'll get to me here in a second, but my point of topic here that I wanted to discuss was benefits of Olympic movement and variations versus a trap bar for the high school athlete. And I know there was a lot of, I would say, like comparisons, the differences, what's better, why do we still try and train kids Olympic movements if they're not an Olympic lifter? And I think the same thing can go vice versa for a power lifter, trying to be a high school athlete. It just does not correlate the same. And I think with Coach Pick and the previous coach here talking about movements and, the changes of everything, it's important to see what's going to make our athletes better. And the biggest thing and point of emphasis ever is just be the athlete. So I wanted to talk about that, discuss over that. And if you guys have any questions at the end or along, just feel free to shoot a message and we'll get this thing rocking and rolling. Okay, so I went to Manchester University. I actually met Coach Ramos there when I was coaching, but I played football there. I went to graduate school at Ball State University, got a master's in sports performance. So I was a graduate assistant there. And this is kind of my 10-year span. I started coaching. I got a job at Bethel College in Kansas, and Coach Ramos actually played football there. And not at Bethel College, but in the same conference. So it was just kind of crazy to have a comparison and connection with that. But I started this career field just to get a job. And I wanted to coach football and I wanted to be, a strength coach, but not necessarily understanding the demands of doing both. And I know there's some out there that had the same thing. And just hit the wrong button here. So I know that there's some out there that are probably doing both, whether they're in college and or in high school. I started by making restricted earnings, and it was a small coaching stipend. We got like room and board that came with the position, but at the same time, it was a grind. So that's how the first year went. I became more involved with wanting to be a strength coach, and it was a passion of mine, and right away to be held the reins to be the strength coach for the program. Well, I wanted more of it, and I wanted to get better at it. After my first year of coaching there, I decided to join the Air Force Reserves. So that's just kind of how everything just fell into place. I wanted to go to grad school. I wanted to get a master's degree. I wanted to learn more. So that is exactly what I did. So I joined the Air Force Reserves, just re-enlisted a couple months ago. I'm going on, it's my 8th year. So I just re-enlisted for 2 more and extended. Love the reserves. Everything's done for me, a deployment, a handful of temporary duties, been able to see the world and et cetera. So I also, I push for those that ever, aspire to be in this. But it's really hard to, because if you're a strength coach, it is going to be literally impossible at times to be a strength coach, especially in the college setting, and then trying to do both, manage both, because you're in literally 2 separate worlds. So the long story short, everything just took off place after there. So got into graduate school at Ball State, and then internship at the Citadel with Daniel Boucher. He just left to work with play. So I was there for a short stint in the summertime, learned a plethora of knowledge from that man and Coach Mike Morgan, who's at a high school out in Georgia. Manchester University, this is where I got and came back to the alma mater, was the strength coach there and assistant football. And then being in the reserves, I knew very quickly that I'm not going to be able to manage this very well if I wanted to do both. So I kind of just put my brain together here and was like, what's more important? So, and that's where Coach Ramos came in the picture. So like you said, we actually got to live together. We talked shop quite a bit here and there. After I had left, I took a job at a private facility contracted through a hospital. So, and I'm giving this 2 cents here because for those that are, have aspirations to want to be in this field, there are so many sacrifices you have to make, and it's not always going to be pretty. And the last coach that was on here before hit the nail on the head, and specifically when it comes to, he had to pay him, he had to make sacrifices and really make very little money to be in this career field. And if you have ambitions and if you're passionate about it, it will pay off. You literally just have to go through the mud to get there. So if you really want to be in this field, these are just my little 2 cents of 10 years of how everything's transitioned. So I was at OPS here in Indiana. I was a director there. And then I deployed in the Air Force, so there's another curveball. Came back, and then here's coronavirus or COVID-19. Took a step away, and then I was, fishing for jobs to try and get back in the team setting because that's what I had missed. So I got a job at Oak Hill High School here in Indiana. Now here's another thing: you're assistant football again, and you're a strength coach, and you got to manage both. So I know exactly for those coaches that are doing both roles and how demanding it can be, but you're not the only one. So I knew exactly what I wanted to do if I were to get back into strength conditioning, the team setting at a high school. And then Mustang, and here's another thing, I'm married. My wife took a job out in Oklahoma, took a leap of faith. That's another curveball. And you take a chance out there and you get a job and you land a pretty good one. And then it's not always what you may think it is. And it was a great, position and great, place to be at, but it just wasn't home for us. So we decided to come back. So that's just a 10-year span of what this can look like. And Northridge High School, thankfully enough, I'm 15 minutes away from my dad. And my wife and I are from Indiana. And so I took a position here at Northridge, and it was a brand new position. This is the first year that I had a strength coach. And this is how new high school strength conditioning still is. The past 3 high schools I've been at, this is their first year of having one full time. So it's still kind of new, and I'm glad to see more popping up here and there in the high school setting because it's so needed. And, other coaches talked before, you can tell when people power clean when they go to college. You're able to sniff those out that know how to do power clean, hang clean, clean and jerk. If they're very good at savvy enough, they'd be able to do snatch. So those are the things that are awesome to see because it's going to make them, not only better movers, but they're going to be a lot more healthier in the long run because this is what we need. So just to give my 2 cents and to paint a picture of who I am and where I've come from, know that you're not alone in there if you're struggling and whatnot, because you can have some long days, and the days that are great always, cancel out the hard times. So just stay at it, keep chipping away, and it will pay off. So that is just in a nutshell. Okay, so about us and what we do. So our department and what I want to establish at every institution that we're at is our community first, our institution, and ourselves. And I know I'm talking about me and about us, but I want to give you a good painted picture before we get into the nitty-gritty of what the topic is. So it's more than just sets and reps, and it's more than just learning about how to move. And they're going to learn more about themselves than they probably are about strength and conditioning or sports performance or whichever you want to implement. But our community and institution and ourselves always are, in that order. And that's an Air Force core value that I learned, and it's putting your service before yourself. And so, putting your personal values to the side, to gain more as a team setting. So our community, our institution are not anything unless us as human beings, as individuals, as selves, are doing the right things at all times. So that's the first thing preaching. We're always on duty. When you step out of the weight room, you're representing more than yourself. I want our kids in our weight room, in order to be at Northridge and be in the classes that I have, you have to wear Northridge attire. And if not, then you get deducted points. And it sounds kind of tedious and parents don't like it. But at the same time, I'm trying to establish something in a culture setting here. And it's going to benefit more than just, Johnny and I having a t-shirt. So seeing the big picture on things is stress day one. Our culture, as individuals to further our abilities, our vision is to be the team, not only in our conference, but I want us to be one of the most recognized programs in the state of Indiana. And I want us to pride ourselves for that. So again, not only outside of this weight room, you're representing more than just yourself. I mean, you're representing me too and what I'm about. And it's not just about me, it's about us. Our priorities of performance, attitude's the number one thing when they come in and step in the weight room, and everything falls in place. We go over this kind of day one. And I want them to understand that it's a very team effort in here. It's a team atmosphere. It's not just your typical PE class that comes in and just kind of check off the boxes on your paper, do a halfway workout, finish the rest with the check marks with pen and paper or whatever. This is way different. I want us to come in here and have a great environment to train and knowing what to expect when you come in there. And our primary objective is to establish readiness in for not only competition, but in life. And that's number one priority. I mean, again, you're going to learn more about yourself than you are anything else. And I'm all about habits and creating good habits. Don't come in here if everybody's going to have a hard time. I always preach, no success story has come without a struggle. So if you're having a down day, if you're having a downtime, you're going to come in here and be able to train and kind of take out your stress levels on the weight room. I'm not saying throw a barbell at the mirror or anything, but certainly take out your energy for that. So you're gonna hit adversity. You're gonna have to do things you don't necessarily want to do, and that's establishing good habits. Those are good habits to obtain while being training in the weight room. So establishing this readiness in life and competition. Scriptures to success. I believe in that's a Matthew Kelly book, Rhythm of Life. I always try and push our kids to read, and I don't know I'm not the best when it comes to reading books all the time, but that's certainly a goal of mine this year. But accomplish this by building physically, emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. So I want them to know that you're not going to come in here and just do Dwayne Johnson's leg workout. This is a very big team environment, and it's now a strength and conditioning department. It's not just a PE class. So knowing the expectations day one changes everything. And we've lost some kids from the past semester because they just didn't want that, and that's okay. But now the expectations coming in here. So, and then what we do is three-dimensional training, building character, building athleticism, ground-based movements, train for speed, movement efficiency. Coach Pick touched on that quite a bit. And that, it can be more true than what he stated before. Movement efficiency is going to pay off more than stacking on a bunch of weight and trying to see if you move it. And that's another, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but I feel like a lot of programs have that same thing of kids coming in and trying to tack on a bunch of weight. It's still there. That stereotype is still there. People are just trying to put on a bunch of weight and seeing if they're able to do it. So being a pusher for that is definitely a priority. That's just what we're about here at Northridge and other programs that I've been at to push forward. So what the topic is, power cleans and variations versus trap bar deadlift. And, I come into this as a neutral. I'm not trying to say I'm pro clean or I'm pro trap bar. I'm coming in this as a neutral thing because I think there's such a comparison with one another, and then there's a differential between one another. And I think it's a topic that needs to be discussed because, like previous strength coach said, there's more ways to skin a cat. Not just one way is better than the other. Don't listen to the noise that's out there on Twitter and in social media and be entertained. I think one of the Arizona strength coach said the same thing, buddy. That's just what the trend is right now. Stay true to your guns. You learn after your mistakes and you learn the aftermath of things, but at the same time, you have to be able to give to gain. So make sure you're trying things out. Make sure you're able to, be okay with things when it comes to trying movements. So with pros and cons, and I'm just listing off things right here. There's so many variations the clean can give you. And there's position 1, position 2, position 3. There's a hip hang clean. There's, get to the knee, above the knee, below the knee. And then there's power clean, put it all together. So that takes time. Clean pulls, hang clean, power clean, and then the full clean to get in a parallel position. The benefit of it's going to put you in a front rack position all the time. And then it's going to aid your front squat. And then your front squat's going to aid your clean because you're consistently training a habit to get in the front rack and training your anterior portion of your body. So force production and force absorption are a big asset to have. So that is my biggest thing. I want to be able to train an athlete in different hip angles to be able to not only produce force, but to absorb it at the same time. The downfall is them trying to catch the barbell and the timing between their transition from their shrug to get under the bar is probably the most horrifying thing at times to watch because you want to teach them those things and you certainly don't want them to get hurt. So we teach a ton of progressions here at Northridge, and I just as much as I see other programs doing the same thing, I think it's a key indicator to have. So, but it takes a long time. Is it risk or reward? You could be doing more things that's going to benefit the athlete than trying to teach them how to clean. Once again, they're not Olympic lifters. They're not USAW. They're not, maybe some of them are, freak athletes and just get it right away. But is it more time to teach or is it more risk or reward? Are they going to get hurt more times than none by teaching it? But that comes down to the coach. That's the eye of the coach to clarify what's more important. And then, going versus the trap bar. And I think that's why the trap bar has gotten so much attention because it's so simplified. And simple doesn't mean easy. Simple just means it can be more effective. There are days where I have a tour delay at the school and we do nothing but auxiliary training and I call it a strength circuit. And I feel like we're the most productive, most effective training time because we're not doing a main movement. I'm teaching them the simple things. And after that lift, I'm like, oh my God, that was phenomenal. We had probably our most effective training session because it was very simple but effective. And I didn't have to worry too much about them doing a squat, a bench, and or a clean variation. And I'm like, man, where do I gauge it? I feel like they got so much bang for their buck right there, but where do I gauge it? So again, you learn after the time, the aftermath, and you learn from mistakes, but do not be afraid to try things out. So a benefit of trap bar, and I know Coach, John's a big advocate for it. I mean, I see this man do his stuff all the time with his trap bar, but there's one variation, and it puts him in an athletic position. That's a natural position set that puts him in, and it's made for a reason. So it's a good thing to have. It puts him in that athletic position, in that hinge position, and you can train power movements from it, which is outstanding. You can get motor unit recruitment, more cross-sectional area due to the amount of load you can get on a trap bar. Of course, you got to be, you got to have your eye on the kid and make sure, there's lumbar flexion and et cetera. But at the same time, you can get more motor unit recruitment just because of how much you're able to tack on and not worry about an individual or a kid rolling a shoulder forward on their drive from the floor compared to a clean. So simple is effective. It's less time consuming. It's great for beginners. Force production and force absorption, big time on trap bar jumps and when absorbing force after your jump. And it's awesome for post-activation potentiation pairing. So after you get done driving a trap bar movement, you can pair it up with a vertical jump, broad jumps, or if you want to do traveling broad jumps, it's a great comparison for it. So that's another thing. Where do you measure what's better? Can you do both? What do you do from there? So at the end of the day, you're training athletes. So where do you gauge? Considerations. So what buckets need filled? And this is just, this is probably a lot of programs, college, high school, private. You got your needs analysis, just everything it teaches you from the essentials of strength training, right? To get your CSCS, it tells you that from day one. And CS is really, really good, and it teaches you a lot of things, but it doesn't necessarily make you a strength coach. You got to literally earn your stripes. You have to figure out what's more important. You have to try new things, and it's trial and error. So, and I learned the hard way. I thought I knew what I was doing coming to high school, and I was completely wrong. So there's more obstacles in high school than you would think. So the high school needs analysis for me, and what I've learned is you can't complete it until you know these things. How much time I got? And I'm like, the times usually from being in the college setting, teams will come in throughout the day, but I'm like, then you got to worry about times. You got to worry about class schedules, and it's block schedule here. We get 90 minutes. 90 minutes is more than enough time, but know your timing frame with it. The classroom size, I average about 40 kids, and it's just me in there. And so it can be pretty tough to do, but you got to know what kind of, personnel you're going to have within that training regimen and that training time. I have 0 hour, first hour, second hour, third hour, fifth hour, and after school stuff for an hour. Again, if you're passionate about doing it, it's going to pay off. Thankfully enough, that those that have 0 hour, at the schools, I strongly push for that 0 hour actually being a class, because if you're dedicating your free time, and I know that's important, but at the same time, if you can get that a scheduled class, it's even better because they're expected to be there on attendance. They can dock points for it, and it's a class at the end of the day. So for those that are doing their 0 hour, make sure you're pushing for it to be an actual class, because it's paid off tremendously here at this institution. And then the size of the weight room. Our weight room is a smaller weight room. I can't tell you the dimensions of the size, but it is way smaller than some of the programs that I've been at before. We're actually looking to break them through our wall, but know what you're looking at. And it was set up like a general population weight room, so we got some work to do at the end of the day. Equipment, we have 10 racks, 6 trap bars. We don't have enough trap bars. What do you have? Our barbells are old. This is, year one, know what you got to take care of. All athlete weight room. First semester, majority was an athlete weight room. Meet with your administrators, meet with your counselors. Your counselors are going to be your best friend. Make sure if you know what kind of candy they like, make sure you get it for them, So those things will pay off because you won't have as many bummed heads as you would if you didn't. So we made some adjustments to make it an athlete only class because it's fitness for athletes. So make sure you're trying to do that and just have a good communication, but not only that, but a good friendly relationship with them. Coaches, I got one teacher assistant with me throughout every class. I'm pushing for more. I need more TAs in my class just to help out. One thing that I've seen in other programs is trying to work in administration to be the strength coach or the director or assistant director of strength conditioning, because I've seen that before, and then adding in a PE teacher and contracting that out. So that's the next step here down the road. Hopefully we get that in 3 years, but there's McCutcheon High School here in Indiana that does the same thing. They contracted out 2 teachers and their strength coaches, and now they got 2 full-time strength coaches. So those are things just to help out. If you have that opportunity, take advantage of it. Next year, we're looking in joining our freshman PE department as one, because we have 2 other PE teachers, to make it a developmental class with all freshman kids. Again, these are things I'm just trying to help out with for those that, need it out there, but try and work with your PE teachers. And just because you might feel like you're a lone duck, they're still willing to help you. So that's just my 2 cents. I'm very happy with what we're stepping forward with and what we're trying to accomplish. But those are the things is what it takes to just expand your expertise, but not only that, but to expand what you want. Training experience. What they have before, what type of movements did they know? Did they have a strength coach before? They actually had an interim last year, and he moved on and took another job in another high school. So those are just the things that I have learned coming in a high school setting. That was my needs analysis. And then you're never going to know until you put them through a training session. My first training session here was kettlebell swings, goblet squats, unilateral movements with front foot or rear foot elevated, and trying to keep it simple and see how well we can move. I didn't do the FMS testing. That just takes time. I didn't do 40s and 20s right off the bat. Okay, I want to see how well we can move first and then go from there. So that's just considerations, what buckets need filled, what's more priority, and you got to gauge all those numbers before you can determine what you need to fill out and where your priorities lay. So where we start at when it comes to a clean variation.
Yeah.
Okay, we start with the hinge first, and we work from top down. So we do dumbbell RDLs, and it's all GPP work, and it's mostly just concentric work. We're just trying to shape a pattern, and I'm trying to teach them the fundamentals. Okay, and that's like week 1, week 2. Then we transition from the dumbbell to the barbell. If I see a kid knocking it out of the park, okay, I promote them in some ways by doing a barbell RDL, because you're progressing, you're ready for it. And then we'll go through week 2, we'll go through tempos with the barbell with every kid. And so I give a command that it's ready. I want them tall. Okay. I want ready. I want shoulder lock, elbow lock, And then when it's given the tempo down to the knee, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, all the way to the knee. And I'm going to hold. I want to see if your hips are coming straight back. I always tell them your hips are a door hinge. You're going to pivot. Okay. You're never going to sink or squat. So making sure, I almost tell them like a band's trying to pull your hips back. That's the tempo I want to be at. For junior high athletes, I want to teach just to be in an athletic position. That's number one. Okay. But for high school, the tempo is all the way at the knee. I want them to learn how to hinge first. If you learn how to hinge correctly, in my personal opinion, the pull from the floor will be a lot more fluent because everything from the drive, what this photo is displaying, really just turns into a hang clean, right? So if you're good with your hinge and you're good at hang cleaning, majority of the time you're going to pull from the floor and you're going to be a hell of an athlete because of it. You're going to be a good Olympic lifter or a good power cleaner. And then from there, the following week, or even in the same week with another training session, we'll do jump shrugs. Okay. And the same thing, giving them command, ready. And I want them tall, I want them locked. Okay. Immediately I look around the room and I'll yell ready. And it's immediately like they perk up. Okay. Like basic training, when they give you a command, everybody perks up. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. And then I'll give them a set command and I want them down to the athletic position, just what we taught with doing tempos on the RDL. So they'll go down, screech down to either above the knee or at the knee, depending on what I want them at. And I want them in that position and I want to see where they're at. Okay. Because that is not only called the universal athletic position for nothing. It is because of they're always in that position a lot of the times. Okay. So that's where I want to be at. And then, I'll give them command whistle or go. And immediately there's just a jump and shrug. Okay. And I try not to tell them too much of thing about trying to jump up for a basketball, because sometimes you see the difference of where they're putting their force at with the barbell. Sometimes they forget to lock the shoulder in. They just try to just jump with it. So I'll tell them to keep the shoulder locked and just jump and shrug. We'll hold a position too with the toe, with the extension, but that's on the next slide. But that's just a progression of just working on a hinge work. And that's, weeks 1 to 2. That was what we did first semester. And then we started going in with complex. We started getting a little cute with it. Can I skip this slide? No, I didn't. Okay. So first one was a hang shrug. I got the hyperlink there. I can share the PowerPoint with you, but our hang shrug is just get triple extension. Okay. Ankles, knees, hips, get extended first. Paint the picture, see what it should look like. Look around the room, see your partner. That's what it should look like. And then we'll work into a triple punch, which is pretty much getting triple extension first and just allowing your elbows to get all the way through. And I want them to exaggerate, and then we'll hold and make sure everybody's elbows are forward. Okay. We'll usually do this complex in the beginning, right before we do any cleaning. We do it every time. It's about habits, making good ones. So making sure we're doing our extensions, 5 of each variation, and then we're putting a hang clean with it. I want them to catch in a power position and or in a parallel position. I'm watching the top of the thigh to make sure it's in a parallel or it's parallel to the floor. So that's what I'm looking for our first complex. That will go weeks 1 to 4. We'll do it every time with the clean variation. And then weeks 5 to 8 is complex 2 with the barbell only. So again, it's a complex before we do any type of variation of a clean. Again, training good habits is what's going to pay off in the long run. So RDLs, bent over row, triple extension, front squat. So we'll do RDLs for 5, which is the bar. Bent over rows, 5 rows, pull the barbell to the belly button. Triple extension drops, get tall, ankles, knees, hips extended. And I want you to get extended. And as soon as you do, I want you to drop, catch the bar in a parallel position. Because it's not always about how high you can elevate the bar. It's about how fast you can get under it. So as soon as you elevate and you extend the hips and you break at the elbow, you're on the bar as fast as you can. Because as soon as you start adding more weight and tacking on more weight, as technically sound as you can, it's all about how fast can you get under it. And then front squats. We'll do front squat. That's our main lower body exercise. Didn't really do too much back squat this semester. Plan to this semester. But I want them to get an anterior load, feel what their core structure needs to be like, and get them strong enough there in their stomach first and their squat pattern first before doing anything else. So That's our second complex. So we did the first one for the first 4 to 4 weeks, complex 2 for weeks 5 to 8. And then week 3, week 4. Okay, clean pulls was the next one. So we work from top bottom. Now we're going to work from the floor and up. So I always tell them walk up to the bar. And this is day one for those that are not novice with it, or that are brand new to it. And even for those that think they know what they're doing, I have no idea what you train like. I have no idea what you look like. So we're going to do it all from scratch. Okay, so I tell them to walk up to the bar, get your shin to the barbell. And I tell them stand tall. I want your palms behind, like your fingers and your palms facing behind you, nice and tall. And I tell them to literally squat down and grab the bar. Some of them might hinge forward to grab the bar to where their chest is facing the floor and their back's parallel to the floor. And I'm like, nope, try it again, right? Stand up, stand tall, get your barbell, get your shins to the barbell, palms behind, nice and tall, squat down, grab the bar. And I've had no issues with that, putting him in a natural position every time. Their hips are elevated above their knee level. They got a nice 45-degree angle. They got a neutral spine. That helps me out every time. And then from there, I'll just tell them to stand up with the bar with like minimal weight, 10-pound bumpers on each side. Just stand up with it. Okay, so that helped me tremendously with just those little things, teaching them how to get in the position first, and then just standing up with weight. And then from there, we'll just start working on clean pulls. So a drive from the floor, you can see this guy's in ankles, knees, hips are extended. He's got a shrug going on. That's what I'm looking for when it comes to the clean pull. And then from there, it's lock and load, and we're rocking and rolling. So now we're reps on me. We're ready. We're locked in. We're set. I tell you lock the lats or lock the back, and then I'll give them a command and or a whistle. And as soon as I extend, it's a 1 Mississippi down. Okay, because I want them to know what it feels like to be extended. Because I don't want a kid to try and get on the bar too soon and then be 3/4 of the way extended. And next thing you know, they're catching in a rounded position, hurting their back. Okay, so keep making the main thing the main thing. Make the athlete. Okay, it doesn't always have to be power clean, hang clean. It means move and move well. And Coach Pick and the previous coach, the same thing. It is movement is medicine, and there ain't nothing else. Keep the main thing the main thing. Try not to get too carried away with testing and power cleaning and stuff. It is a slow cooker. All right. So that's week 3, week 4. And again, keep it simplified. Walk up to the bar, stand tall, palms behind, squat down, grab the barbell, and everything else for the cues is on command with the coach. Okay. And I like going on the whistle when it comes to the first couple of weeks for the most part. And when it comes to cleans, it's on the whistle. And then weeks 5 and 6, position complexes. Man, position 1, position 2, and then the power clean. Put it all, 1, 2 together as 3. So position 1's out the hip. And we just learned how to do hinges. We just learned how to do clean pulls. Now I want us to work at the hip and extend. Okay, position 2, let's go either at the knee or below the knee. So I'll clarify which one I want, but I'll tell them position 1, go. Position 2, to the knee, set. I'll get them the same thing. Ready, nice and tall, set, drop down to a hinge, barbell at the knee or below the knee, whistle, extend, punch, drive, everything else. And then I'll put all together as one. We've clean pulled for a couple of weeks. We've done hang clean positions. We've done complexes. Now it's the time to see what they can do. Okay. And then that's where you gauge, okay, you're not really good at pull from the floor. You need to start doing more clean pulls. Okay. And it's hard to do when you're just the only guy. Okay. So if you got help that you can mitigate the naked eye on things and not be able to see things, try to, because it's hard to get everybody all at one time. Hang clean, week 7 to 8. That's where we'll just be good. Okay, you're good at hang clean. We're going to keep you there, and then we'll progress you as we go. Power clean, we're going to test. We're going to see how well you can move. And if it looks like hot garbage, it's hot garbage. Call it for what it is. We're going to keep progressing you as we go. It's tough love, but just because Johnny's doing it correctly doesn't mean you're going to. And as long as you give them the feedback and you're completely honest with them, all they have to do is take it for what it is. Try not to beat around the bush, just be direct and just completely honest with them. I'm not saying like your form is horrible, but just say that like this is the things we need to work on in order to continue to make you a better athlete. And it's no shot at you. It's just where you need to improve at to make you a better athlete. Regressions, if I see, we're not doing too well from one hip angle compared to the other, we'll like to change it up and we'll drill it again. I try not to do, this is talking about overuse of injuries. I try not to do power cleans consistent. Like I like to train drills. Okay. I like to train the athlete and then put them all together again. Once I feel confident that we're doing well, then we'll do a power clean and we'll do hang cleans. So that's just a gauge. And we tested 2 times. We tested 2 times the first semester, and we only tested bench and clean and power clean. That was it. I didn't feel confident enough for them to just see where they're at in front squat because, you're not here. It's not football strength and conditioning. It's not basketball strength and conditioning. It is basketball. You're in this weight room to aid in your athleticism, to aid in your sport. It is not a sport. Okay. It is not, it's good to have leaderboards and it's important for them to come in here and train for something. But at the same time, I want you to give your 90% effort, your best effort in your sport. I don't necessarily need you to do it in the weight room. If there's a good time to train, if you're not in a sport, let's go ahead and do it. And so that's the biggest reason why we only tested twice in the last semester because of it. That was a good opportunity to take, and we're consistently training. That's another one to be able to test them over the 8-week span. So this is where is it more risk or reward? Over the 8-week span, we have force production, we have force absorption, we're in a front rack position, but is the force output right every time? Is power clean and hang clean, is it still beneficial? Are we doing too much? We're not necessarily training Olympic athletes here, we're training high school athletes. So there's no force plates to be able to determine, if they're coming off the toe, if they're coming midfoot, if they're catching on the heel too much. You don't want to have that. I think the biggest thing out there, which is very a hot commodity, is the VMAX Pros attached to the barbell or a similar technology to be able to see where their force output's being at. And technology is great and everything. It's not everything, but it certainly does help. So for those out there, if you're like, man, I'm just not sure if we're getting what we need out of it, there's a technology, just an example to help you out. I would love to push for them too because it's bar velocity, it's velocity-based training, and that's another hot commodity. But for a high school kid, freshman, sophomore, do they need velocity training or they just need to know how to move? So again, gauge what's more important and then go from there. Junior, seniors, absolutely. Coach said it before, when is strong enough? Is at that point, like, I don't need you to get stronger. There's some kids in here that are seniors that are absolutely going to do well in the college setting. But at this point, I just want to make you more maintain in your athleticism and be able to move more efficiently and just be more powerful. I like to see where we're transitioning right now in this field. That's way more important. It's not always just clanging and banging and seeing how much you can do. It's how well can we move and can I maintain you? So that just that's an 8-week progression. That's what we do in here. That's what I do in here. That's where I gauge the importance of it. So if you guys have questions on it, please do ask at the end here in a second. And then trap bar movement. There it is. Immediately, hips above the knee level. He's got a neutral spine. I tell him to tuck the chin. Teaches a universal athletic position. That right there says enough. What we'll do in week 1 is, again, like what we did in RDLs with learning how to hinge with the barbell. We'll just do a concentric work. Okay, just repeating the movement up and down, keeping it pretty simple. Week 2, I'll teach them how to shape the absorption of it. Okay, so we're shaping the production by going upward and knowing what it feels like. And that's, again, movement is medicine. Knowing what it feels like is the most important thing. Knowing what it feels like to absorb things is the second most important thing. And going in an eccentric phase is shaping the absorption that you need to be in. And then from there, let's progress them to a trap bar. And it's a no-brainer. You're going to see kids love to try and stack on weight and see how much they can do. But putting the point of emphasis, I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how much of a great athlete you are. You're entitled to nothing in here but opportunity. So make sure you're doing what's asked. Make sure you do it correctly. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself hurt. So we'll do some trap bar jumps, and that's where they'll be able to know how to absorb some type of force. So trap bar jumps sometimes kind of scare me just because of the amount of weight that's coming down on them. But at the same time, you should not need that much daggum weight to do a trap bar jump and then land with it. Again, if you're training for the right things, it's athleticism. It's not weight, it's athleticism. So make sure you're gauging the right things and getting the biggest bang for your buck. And that's where a trap bar, I believe, is definitely one of those things. So again, it's a good comparison. So for an example, week 4, do a 5x3 at 81% of their, of their predicted 1 rep max, and pair it up with a broad jump or a vertical jump. You still got some gas left in that tank after you do a movement with the trap bar, exhausted. Okay, you just wasted 3/4 of it doing trap bar movement and a decent load. Now let's exert it. Okay, so that's what post-activation potentiation is for us. That's what we'll do. We got a little bit left in the tank. We're going to exert it, just increase our power. So we'll pair it up with a broad jump or a vertical jump, and then we can do it in sequences. That's one of the biggest things I took with Coach Boucher from Citadel. And it's something that we know of, but it's good to be reminded, because those are some of the things that I just completely forgot about when I was in my training as a young coach. You're training the athlete. You're not training power lifters. You're not training Olympic athletes. So he would pair it up with hurdle hops right after one another, doing something heavy. And it can even be, a triple for back squat at 80%. Okay, moving well, but also moving explosively. So that was the example I like to set, and just in case you had a question on how to program for it. Greater force output. Just because the cross-sectional area is, you're going to get more motor units because of it, and more muscle fibers are going to be implemented on it just because of the amount of load you can get on a trap bar. It's kind of scary to try and train for and test for a clean, because you certainly don't want the kids to drive the hip up and then the shoulders second. The hips and shoulders come up at the same time with the drive on the clean. It's not hips then shoulders. So making sure you got an eyeball on that, and the barbells underneath the armpit from the side view, et cetera, it's a greater force output automatically. Post-activation potentiation is phenomenal. You can pair up the same thing with a clean, but at the same time, you're going to get more muscle fibers, more motor units recruited because of that trap bar and what the amount of weight you can have from it. Force absorption, I put a slash on there because sometimes I personally, this is just me. I personally don't try to do too much on the load when it comes to a trap bar. When it comes to absorbing force, I keep it the same. I keep it simple. If we're absorbing force, it's a trap bar jump. Get extension, learn how to land, move on. Okay. Downfall is not teaching them a front rack position or a catch, and there's not really too much of a breakdown with the trap bar. With the barbell and cleans, you're able to be able to identify where we're at in terms of where our hips need to be at. You can utilize DC blocks for it, or wood blocks to put your barbell on with your bumpers and then train from the hip. So I love it. That's one thing I learned from Coach Armour at Ball State when I interned for him on the football side, because I was a GA on the Olympic side. I interned for Armour on the football side, and that was like second nature there. And teach them to always stay in a triple extension, and he was training athletes, man. They got strong because of it, and they were training the right things, in my opinion, to where if they're doing the simple things effectively, they're going to be better athletes for it. So that's just the pros and cons with trap bar and clean. And it's simple, and like I said, it's simple and effective, man. The trap bar is so underrated in so many ways. I just think we need to take more advantage of it with what equipment's being built for us. In summary, the clean, you can train the different outputs. Like I said before, DC blocks. I'm pushing for getting those. I know they're pricey and expensive, but they're pricey and expensive for a reason. They're literally blocks. Can you make them yourself? Absolutely, you could. But I'm not going to make them myself. I'm not going to take the time. I'm not going to go out to the woodshed, start chopping up blocks and trying to figure out what we need to do and how I need to do it. But they're out there for a reason. Take advantage of the equipment that's out there being built for us. So you can train at different outputs when it comes to force. And I like that about the clean. I like that about the barbell. I like that about training a different hip angle. Athleticism, you're literally teaching them triple extension in more ways than none. And you're learning how to be good at hinging, be good at driving from the floor, learning how to get extended and shrugging and getting under the bar, and then absorbing the force that's being applied with the weight that you have on. The breakdown movement at triple extension, there's no comparison. So that's, in summary, that's a benefit for the clean. Force absorption, front rack position, you're going to be a better front squatter because of it, and your clean is going to be better because you front squat more. And that's just that's what I wanted to have in my needs analysis. Was that's the biggest bucket for me to fill. Trap bar, simple, effective, greater output when it comes to force, just because of the cross-sectional area and identifying all the muscles that are involved. Because of it, you're going to get really strong back, strong traps because of it. Same thing for the clean, but I think you get more from the trap bar. And this is what I just kind of, not one is not better than the other. Do both of them. And I think what I've seen, and this is just social media standpoint, but I think we're all doing the same thing for the most part in just different variations. One is not better than the other. Each has a beneficial component. It certainly does kill the monotony of, trying to do cleans and clean variations. I wish we had more trap bars to do more trap bar stuff. And we just simply don't. That's one push for here. So keep the main thing the main thing. Don't try and get too cute with things. These things were here before us. And like I said, previous coaches that talked before me, there are things in place for a reason. And there's equipment and technology and movement patterns there for a reason. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. That's one of the biggest things Coach Boucher said to me when I was at the Citadel. You're doing way too much. You're overthinking things. I put in too many variables in an equation and I'd get the wrong answer every time. And I've heard it time and time again. It's just keep things simple. I'm like, why would you want to? I want this thing to be like elite. No, elite is simplified. Simplified is elite. Even the professionals sometimes can't do the most simple things effectively. So keep the main thing the main thing. Don't do too much. And it makes athletes harder to compete against in the long run, because they're literally doing the little things right so they can do the big things correctly. So that's just my 2 cents of what I've learned. I hope you guys got something out of it. Mine probably a little bit more boring than what's on the agenda today. And I thank John for putting me on this. And it's also good to be having this family. And that's one thing that I think we're taking the right direction is. And now we have the NHSSCA in Indiana. Our director and assistant director here are doing a phenomenal job. We're invited every Sunday at Concord High School, which is 20 minutes from me, to do professional development. I'm like, man, I think we're doing the right things because we care about our kids. So I hope you guys got something out of it. I've certainly got some things out of the past 2 coaches that spoke. And that's just word from the wise. I'm always trying to learn, but that is the word from the wise. And those are some good coaches out there. And I'm just thankful to be a part of it and be able to speak for it. So if you guys have any questions on anything when it comes to the benefits of Olympic movements, variations of each exercise, please shoot out and ask. So I'm open to questions if anybody has any. Let's see if we got anything.
Yeah, Coach, I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
So I know you mentioned saying that you do both, but has there ever been a time where maybe you just did cleans or just did trap bar to find maybe one being more effective than the other?
Absolutely. So when we did a power clean and we're able to see where a kid was absorbing their force when at time that we did it. So afterwards, I was just like, man, I don't think they're catching right. I don't think they're getting their elbows all the way through when it comes to it. And I'm just sitting here beating my head against a wall. And we did a cycle of like trap bar movements, and I felt like it cleaned it up for us. So that's where I kind of bounced back from. So hopefully I'm answering your question. After doing one thing, I was able to enhance that performance by doing something else different. And I like to do different things. Again, it's trying to take away from the progression, but I think trap bar kind of cleaned it up for them. I hope that answers your question, but trap bar definitely aids in what they do with the clean 100%.
Yeah, that answers it. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, well, if there's no more questions, Coach Miller, definitely appreciate it. I
Mhm.
know this is actually the great debate on Twitter every
Yeah.
other month. I know I just saw it just a couple weeks ago, and I'm kind of the same boat as you. It's like do both. I know I do both personally with my training, with my athletes, and with me and myself. They both have benefits, and I just think
Mhm.
the trap bar is safer compared to conventional deadlifts and some other things. And like you said, just
100%.
naturally put you in a better position. But
Mhm.
I'm still a guy that I love the Olympic lifts. I love the clean. So I'm in the category of why don't people do both? But you obviously have
Mhm.
debate and people just choose one or the other. But
Mhm.
just like you, do both.
Yep. And simplify it. It doesn't always have to be the pretty power clean. Just keep teaching progressions, man. It doesn't have to be try not to force them to be in a situation they don't need to be in. Just keep it simple. Keep them athletes first, Olympic lifters second, et cetera, et cetera. So
I feel kind of the same boat as you. You have 10 racks with 6 trap bars. Our weight room at Destin High School will actually be done this coming week. They
that's
actually
awesome.
bus us to a CrossFit, and I train the kids at the CrossFit. We rent their facility.
Wow.
So that kind of sucks because we're just limiting, but at least grateful we have something to train some kids out of. But with the new weight room coming, unfortunately, we don't have any trap bars. So I'm not happy about that because
Yeah.
again, that was all pre-ordered well before I got hired and all that jazz. So I appreciate everyone signing up because that's going to allow us to help us get some trap bars. So.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Do both, man. Well, that's good to hear. Hopefully it's the same for everybody else, and everybody's different. Everybody's situation is going to be different. So I'm glad you guys got one built. I'm kind of jealous. You have to send me some pictures of it. So
It's going to be nice. So
that's awesome. That is awesome.
well, I appreciate the time, Coach. And again, if you guys got any questions, feel free to reach out to Coach Miller.
Mhm.
If you need his email address or any of that stuff, I can get it to you. Just let me know. And but again, Coach Miller, appreciate it. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys, and have a good weekend.